Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're going to be playing Bushi. Now, I'll be honest, the uneducated individual that I was, I initially thought this may be a misspelling from the constructors, full deck and missing a few cards of Bushi, as in Bushi Park here in the UK, or the location. But I'm so glad I sanity checked myself, thinking, no, they are well-educated individuals. They know what they're talking about. This is probably going to be something that I didn't quite get, and that is absolutely the case. I think this is all about Japanese warriors, Japanese samurai. I did actually create a thumbnail where Sleuth was dressed up as a Japanese samurai, but to be honest, it made it look more like he was a Portuguese invader and soldier rather than anything else. So I imagine that most of you are aware that in Japanese culture, samurai were expected to be students of philosophy, calligraphy, etc. That felt much more appropriate. Here you've got Sleuth, a scholar or a warrior of the pen, practicing his calligraphy in a typical Japanese setting with a Zen garden, a Shinto gate, etc. Japan was absolutely one of our most favorite places to visit. Just happened to be that we were very lucky to be there as well for kind of the spring blossoms, which was absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I already mentioned today's puzzle is from Full Deck and Missing a Few Cards. It is a 2-star difficulty rating, which is fantastic. I was looking forward to a puzzle from them, and they didn't disappoint by having one that's slightly more difficult for a weekend. Nothing else really to mention other than let's take a look at today's puzzle and rule set with Bushi by Full Deck and Missing a Few Cards. Don't mind the two, that's just a quick verification. That's all recording. Fantastic. And yeah, I think it only takes a moment to realize that very much looks like a samurai warrior. Head kind of with more decorative helmet, kind of armory. I don't know, could that be swords and the leg? Not too sure, but it's definitely some kind of samurai warrior. Rules-wise, we've got standard Sudoku, arrows, and Kropki pairs. And if you know what all of that means, you know what to do. Link in the description down below for you to play. Now, on the off chance that you don't know what that all means, let me quickly walk you through this. So standard Sudoku means place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column of course, and every 3x3 box. So that's Sudoku. Cages, so digits in cages cannot repeat and must sum to the value shown in the upper left corner of the cage. So these two cells have to add up to 12, these two are 13, these two are 4, as in the sum of is as such. Then last but not least, we've got arrows. So digits along an arrow must sum to the number indicated in the circle from which the arrow emerges. Digits may repeat along arrows if allowed by other rules. So essentially, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cells. These 4 cells will come up to a sum that you're going to have to be able to put in this circle that's attached to that arrow. You could repeat digits, so a 1 in here, a 1 in there is entirely fair. And let's say, I don't know, 2 and 1. That's a totally appropriate set of pencil marks in here, and we end up with, whatever that is, 5. So, as always, to play along, link in the description down below for you to do so. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. Just making a note of the time. So, interesting for sure. Right, top cages are, there's a couple of them that are forced. Then nothing else is attracting my attention. So I may actually be starting by doing Sudoku. Heaven forbid. Right, 4 cage and 2 cells could only ever be 1 and 3. 3 cage and 2 cells can only be 1 or 2. 1 is now in one of these 3 spots just because Sudoku says. Obviously, essentially I've used them up in rows 1 and 2. So they have to be down here. Can't be inside a 12 cage, because if this is a 1, that would have to be a 12, which it isn't. So I'm kind of tempted to think about the 13 for a second. Now you see the arrow sums in general, and the fact that, like in my example area, even if I placed kind of all of these to the absolute minimum, I was able to get to as low as 5. So these two are from 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Can't get to 4 because it essentially would require 1s on all 4 cells, which is not possible since these two see each other. But in general, the arrows, because they're not all contained in the same row, column, or box, and I can repeat digits, despite the fact that they are generally reasonably long arrows, I'm not really getting a massive restriction on what can I place inside them. So I think I'm in the right place there up top. I think. I mean, one thing that's obvious is now this cell is at least 3, because 1 and 2 are already pencil marked. And even if I make all of the rest, I mean, this is another 1, 2. It can't be double 1 because they're in the same box. So I'm already at 6, 7. So at least this side I can restrict. And it doesn't actually give me that many degrees of freedom. I mean, the other thing that I should be thinking about probably is the 12 and 13, which I admit I am tempted to do. So none of these cells could have, no, that's not true. I was going to say none of these cells could have the digits 1, 2, or 3. I mean, the cages can't. Even if there's a 3, the partner will be a 10. But obviously these two cells could be. I was thinking there's another 1, 2, 3 in here, which is not a 1, but that is also not true. Right, 12 and 13 in 2 cells. Let's talk about 12 first. 5, 7, 4, 8, and 3, 9. And then the 13 cage, well, we've got 4, 9, we've got 5, 8, and we've got 6, 7. So given I don't have a 1 available in here, and this is a maximum of 9, 9 and 3, for example, and there's no 1 here or there or there or there, it's kind of restricting me to how big these could be, isn't it? So given the minimum here is 2, and the maximum here is 9, the maximum this arrow could be is 7. I don't know why I typed 6, 7. But even if I go with 2 and 7 and 6 and think about the 9 for a second, because that would make this 1, that would make this 3. So you can see that it's already fairly restrictive, where I'm having to use relatively low digits on this arrow, since essentially 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6 are not available. It would have to be 4, 5 pair. So where am I going with this is the question. I feel there's like a clever algebraic solution to this. That we've got 2 arrows made up of 4 cells that doesn't contain 1, that have to add up to a maximum of 18. And it includes what is likely a relatively high digit in here. Can't exactly make them both that low. In terms of overlaps with these digits, is there any significance there that I'm not seeing? So I mean, the 5, 8 ends up striking 2 options. Yeah, I am genuinely tempted to kind of iterate through this a bit. So 4 cells that add up to 25. I think there's only like a handful of options, like 4 or 5, I think. So let's try. If I pick 5 and 7 for the 12, I think 6, 7, and 5, 8 are gone. So it's essentially 4, 9 that's left. So that's one option. Second option, if I pick 4, 8 for the 12, well, removes the 4, 9, removes the 5, 8. I'm left with 6, 7. Then the last option of 3, 9, I think that is the more permissive setup, where it could be 3, 9 and 5, 8, or it could also be 3, 9 and 6, 7. Now in all of this, I'm not necessarily seeing any common digits, or a persistent digit, more importantly. So I can avoid the 9 by 4, 8, 6, 7. And pretty much every other digit I can avoid. So I'm not really avoiding much. Okay, plus the fact that minimum of 2, meaning maximum of 7 as well in here. So essentially would have to be 9, 3, 8, 4, and then 5, 7 could be either direction. Same with the 6, 7 on this side. But if I have a 9, it would have to be here with the 4. If I have an 8, it would have to be there with the 5. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. In terms of the options of 5, 7, 4, 8, 3, 9, even if this is a 4 and this is a 2, I'm already at 6. And obviously 6 doesn't fit inside the 12th gauge because that would require a double 6. So this is essentially 7, 8, 9 with 3, 4, 5. Then I need to determine which of these. So it's really tight. It really is quite tight. It's a bit of a shame I can't express it particularly effectively algebraically, and I'm having to do this a long way, but it is what it is. So with these 4 options, I have clearly picked a couple of cells that are going to be in here alongside this kind of double arrow. So in the 4, 9 option, essentially one side is 4, one side is, I mean, it could be 5 or 7, so it really hasn't entirely helped me. But I have left a 2 or 3 in here. So obviously if it's 7, it would have to be 2 to get to 9, and then the 4, 5, which doesn't actually work because the 5, 7 removes it. So it couldn't have been 7 because I can't get to 9. But if I go with 4 and 5, bearing in mind these digits are gone, I have an 8, which I clearly wouldn't be able to fit in here, so I'd have to place it in there. And then I have one of the 1, 2, 3s and a 6. And a 6 and 4 is too big already. So this entire option, just blanket, doesn't work. This is a tough break-in. There may be a more clever way that I'm not seeing, so I will entirely accept that. Right, so second option would be 4 on the 12 side and then 6 or 7 on the 13 side. And again, because we're not using the 3, we still have one of the 2 3s available for us to use. And 4, 8 and 6, 7 are used. So essentially I have to have a 9 in here, which would place it there, making this a maximum of 8. Like I'm already thinking I'm going to struggle. And with the 8, I couldn't do this. Could I? I don't think I can. Because the 4, despite it being the lower digit, is actually going to have to use one of the 2 3s to get to 7. Since the 8 is not available to it, I can't do a double 4. And the 6 and 7 to get to a 7, well, it would have to be the 6. And then I would need to have a 1 and a 3 and a 1, 2, 3 in 4 cells. So again, broken. So I'm left with an option where there is a guaranteed 3 now, like there has to be a 3, which can only be on the 12th side. So that's our break-in with a 9, and therefore a 1, a 3, a 1, a 2. And these are now like relatively high digits. Now 4, 9 is off the table on this side, but it could still be 5, 8 or a 6, 7 pair. Right. And one very obvious option is 3 and 6 to get to 9, 5 and 4 to get to whatever this cell is, 9, plus an 8, no, not 8, 7 here. So essentially something as follows. This would work. Let's just keep thinking through other options, because that's the 3, 9, 5, 8 option. That becomes entirely forced. Obviously, I couldn't have had the 8 in here. So that's that option exhausted. The 6, 7 option could be interesting. So if this is 6, I'm in trouble, because remember, this is now a minimum of 4. So it dictates the fact that this is a 5 so that it can get to a single digit sum. So this is all forced. Somebody has a more intelligent way of accomplishing what I had to do here fairly laboriously. I'm all ears, by the way. Right, so that and all of these pencil marks can basically disappear, and we probably have enough to get much easier solved from here. Probably. Famous last words. This feels very restrictive now with the 7 and 8. Like, essentially, if this is not, given 3 and 4 are non-available, this would have to be 5 if it's not 1 or 2. And then I have 1, 2, 3, which obviously this is a 1, 2. So that's 3, 4, plus the 5, it's 9, it breaks. So this has to be 1 or 2. And with 1, 2, 3, in fact, placed in here, this already is at least a 4. So 1, 2, which is a 3, plus the 4, plus the 1, gets me to 8. So this is again forced. Therefore 8 or 9 in here, and this is definitely an 8. That is no longer a 1, which makes me very suspicious that this is definitely going to add up to 9, but this is now at least a 2. And again, if it's not a 2, it would all be all the way up to a 5. With a 1, 2 pair in here, a 2 in there, so that's 3, 5, 10 if I'm at 5. So that's not going to work. That's definitely 2 now. 2 and essentially just add up all of these. So this is now already at 5. To be fair, this could be 4. No, it can't be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would have to be all the way up to 6, which is just frankly too big. Because 6, 2, and a 3, that is not a single digit sum. So that's definitely 2. Now, I'm already at 4. This can't be a double 1, so 6 is off the table. 7 would work with a 2 and a 1 in here, and an 8. That looks achievable. 9 means I can actually add 2 more digits in here, so I don't even have to have a 1 on this arrow anymore. Now, that could be presumably 4, 1, and a 6. That actually still works. However, I could also do 3 and 2 with a 7. I mean, these two are clearly interacting in some way. In fact, hang on. Sorry, that's not at all what I meant to do. 3, because this can never be 3. And for some reason, this can't be 1. Why did I say this can't be 1? Surely the 1, 3 could be the reverse. What was it? No, it was 1, 4. Nothing stops this from being 1, 4, and 9. Yeah, that looks more correct. So essentially this could be a 1, 4 pair to add up to 5, plus the 4 to get to 9. The 1 or 4 are not really restricted, so that would essentially place 6 or 9 in here. And then if it is either a 1, 2 pair or a 3, 2 pair to add up to 5, the 2 is removed from here, forces the 2 in there, makes this an 8. So I'm being very pedantic right now because getting this wrong at this stage would be a massive setback. 5, 8 pair, not very useful. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I was going to say 6, 7 pair, but I can't even determine which. I can't resolve it. The 1, 2 and the 1, 3 don't help with the 13 cages in the column. The fact that this is at least, all right, let's try this side first. This is at least 1, 2. This is at least 2. So these cells are at least 5, which sadly works quite well inside the 13. So this could be 5, 6. I mean, it doesn't guarantee in essence that this is the lower digit with the higher digit. And I imagine that's true for both sides. Worse even, because I could have a 1 in here with a 1, 2. I can be as low as 4. So this could be a 4, 9, with this ironically being the 4. Okay, tough puzzle. I'm not really up for trying the same kind of acrobatics I had to do at the top, at the bottom. But right now, kind of feels like I'm fairly restricted and I'm having to give this a go. The fact that this is a 9 cage, so not even 12, and 9 and 7 are not available, puts a lot more pressure that we may have to do this. And you can notice, for example, no 1s, no 1s, no 1 inside the 12 cages. So there's a very high chance it's on the arrows. Seems like I am gonna have to do this, because otherwise, like, I'm not seeing how to link them, kind of the top half to the bottom half, without taking a look at this next. Right, so 9 cage. Let's just exhaust the options for 9. 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, and 4, 5. Right, 2, 7, and 3, 6 are clearly gone. Now, this cell, 1, 2 pair, like, I feel like I can't make this 4, but that's 3, that's 4. Yes, but then that is huge, because essentially these 4 cells add up to 10 minimum. These 2 cells add up to 3 minimum, so I'm already at 13. Half of that, well, we're not going to put 6.5 in here, so this is at least 7. And therefore, from the remaining options, it can only be 8 and 1. And it doesn't actually leave, because now that this is 2 and 3, this is already at, sorry, minimum of 2 and 3. This is already at 5. This is a minimum of 10. And I need to get to 16 to get to an 8. So I actually have very few degrees of freedom in here. Now, the other thing to point out is the 12 cage obviously can't have 1 and 2 on it. So this is a minimum of 3, 4. 4 is not available because the 8 isn't. So that's my degree of freedom gone, with a 3, 5 pair, and then a 7, 9 pair, and then a 1, 2 pair. And I think that all adds up now, doesn't it? And then a 2, 3 pair in here, which we actually know the direction of. So let's just double check. 3, 3 and 5, that's 8, and another 8, that's 16. That is correct. So this is entirely forced, and I can put a 3 and a 2 in here. and a 5 because of that 3, a 7, a 9, and a 3. That side is now 6, so that's the 2 side, that's the 1 side. That helps immensely here. That's 2, that's 1, that's 8. That removes the 2, 8 option, and with the 2 gone, this is at least 1 or 4. 1, 3 is now the minimum, which is 4 plus 4, which is not an option. So this is no longer 7, that's 9. And this is no longer a 3. So that is a 1-4 pair, and that all adds up correctly. The 6 or 9, though, is still not resolved. I'm okay with that at this point. The 1, of course, gave me a 4 and a 1 and a 9, so it was resolved. Don't quote me on some of these things that I say. And we're left with what? 4, 6, 7. That is helpful. That is 4, that is 6, 7. And I have a 6, 7, and a 5. And that is again helpful. That's the 5. This is the 6, 7. I feel like I always want to pat myself on the back when I'm solving and I use Sudoku. I'm like, oh, well done. Right, that's a definite 1, just Sudoku. This side is okay, already relatively high. So this is at least 2, 3. This cell is at least 3, because 1 and 2 are not available. So, and this would mean that's a minimum of 8, which it isn't. So that is 9, that is 4. And then my degree of freedom from the forced 2, 3 setup means that there has to be a 2, and this is 3 or 4. It isn't 3, it is a 4, and therefore this is indeed forced with a 3. The 9 and 8 are putting a lot of restriction on this right now, meaning this is a maximum of 7. 1, 2, and 3, that's already at 4 minimum. I'm at 5 minimum in here, and I can't even get to a 2. But I can get to a 1, which is obviously too small. I can still place a 5 in here to get to 7. Oh, but 7 is the maximum. So this could be 6 or 7, meaning this is a 6, 7 pair on the 13 cage. And a 4, 1, 1 gets me to 6. Now, I could have a degree of freedom to get to 7, which would be 5, 1, 1, because the 2 is not available. So this is actually a forced 1 at this point. Although, to be fair, I say a forced 1. Sudoku placed it for me. I just obviously had to make it harder for myself to resolve it. And then it is 4 or 5, but it's not 4. I just need to look around, and therefore this is 7, this is 6. So that's pretty much all the variants done. 24 minutes, it means I've got a bunch of Sudoku to finish up. Where am I going with my Sudoku is a good question. I've got, what's that, 4, 5, 6? Ironically, 4, 6, 5, 6, 4, 5. Just one missing digit from all. There's another 4, 5, 6 and a 3, which I can't place. I know I can place, that's the 3. This is 4 or 6 because it's not 5, which again doesn't actually necessarily help me here. Just having a look at the column, essentially 4, 6, 7, and something else that I'm not seeing. 4, 6, 7, 3. That's the 3. This is not a 6, it is 4 or 7. It is not 4, it helps me unwind all of this. There you go. 6, 7, 6, 7. And 4, 5, 6. And not at all what I wanted. 4, 7. The 5 had actually resolved this, 8 and 5. So all of our pencil marks are done right now. Right, on the hunt for more. 2, 5, and 8. That's not 5, not 2, that's 8. That's the only place for the 2, that's the 5. 6, 8, and 9, that's the 6, of course. This is the 9, this is the 8. This is just a known digit of 6. 7 and 8, that's not 8. 3 and 7, that's 3, that's 7. It's just a known digit of 9. I need 5, 6. That's the 5, that's the 6. This is known, that's 2. Right, and just one box left. That should be very easy to just write in the digits. Fantastic puzzle. Now, I really do feel that there was a more elegant way of doing that top break-in. So I would be very interested in the comments down below how you guys got on. Not unhappy with the 26-minute solve. Fairly intricate puzzle, but fantastic puzzle as always from this duo. Thank you very much for creating it. Hope you guys enjoyed the puzzle and the video, and I'll see you back soon. Bye-bye for now.